Welcome back. Today's video is an update for my Using My Eyeshadow Palettes project pan. I want to change this project up, so I'm pretty excited about that. I've been doing this project for well over 6 months at this point, and the whole point is I pick 4 eyeshadow palettes at a time, use them 20 times, and then roll them out. I no longer pan eyeshadows, so I do this so that I can rotate through my large eyeshadow palette collection. I really do love my palettes, and I want to make sure that I am using them. Now, what I count as one use is even if I just use one eyeshadow for one look, that counts as one use. Or if I do an entire look with 5 or 6 eyeshadows, that is still just one use. I do have a lot of other project pans on my channel where I am trying to hit pan or use things up, so I will link my project pan playlist if you do want to see that. So for this project, like I said, I had 4 palettes. I was using each 20 times. What I'm going to change it to is 4 palettes, using them 10 times each. And I want to, for each update, show at least one eye look that I did with each palette. So I have 4 palettes from last month, and I have used those 10 times each. So I'm going to show you at least one look. A couple of them I have 2 looks with each palette. I'm trying to use less palettes to create a look. I often do a look with 3 or 4 eyeshadow palettes, so I'm trying to do more looks just with 1 or 2 palettes. Now, not every palette is a complete palette for me. Some I need a brow bone highlight from another palette or something for the crease, so of course I do want to do that, but I thought 10 uses would be more reasonable because then I can go through more of my palettes through this rotation. So like I said, I'm going to show you the 4 palettes I had last time. I'll show you some looks that I did with those, and then I'll show you the 4 new palettes that I picked. So let's get started. The first one was the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded. I only have 1 photo for this one, but obviously I did use it more than that, and I really do enjoy this palette. It's just a great neutral palette, very, very easy to use. So the look that I'll show you, I had Boundaries and Bucked in the crease, and then I had Endgame in the outer corner, and then I had a combination of these 2 shimmers on the lid, Reputation and Burn. And I actually did that same exact look multiple times with this palette. The other times that I used it, I did combine it with some of the other palettes here or some of the other eyeshadow palettes that are in my makeup capsule for this month. But I gotta say, this is just such a user-friendly, easy, neutral palette. I really, really like it, and I'm really happy that I used it. I know this one was kind of a hit or miss for a lot of people. A lot of people really did not enjoy it. I've mentioned in a couple of videos that I do regret not repurchasing the original Naked palette before it was discontinued, but having recently used this, I really don't feel that I need that one. They're definitely not identical, but there are some similar shades, and I think overall this suits me better to my taste now, than the original one did. But the original Naked palette still has a special place in my heart because that was my favorite palette for many years. I bought it when it first came out, and yeah, by the time I got rid of it, it was very, very old. But I do think that for me, this is a better upgraded version because I think the colors just suit my taste a little better. The next one was the Venice Fling Bailey Sarian palette with Estate Cosmetics. I'm really sad that this is no longer available. I mean, we knew it was going to be limited edition because it was a collab with Bailey Sarian, but this is such a good palette. I fell in love with this so much. I mean, I already knew that I loved it, but I bought this palette sometime last year, and I think I only had used it maybe 4 or 5 times before putting it in this project. And the looks that I did with this palette, oh my gosh, I fell in love with it so much. These metallics don't even need a wet brush. They are so good, and the mattes are very easy to blend. I'm so impressed with this formula. So look-wise, let's see, I did one that was a very easy look. It was just this beautiful gold all over the lid with a little bit of this matte shade in the crease. Very beautiful. It didn't even wet the brush. This is so metallic, very beautiful. And then one of my other favorite shades I discovered in the palette is this pink here called Ocean Avenue. So beautiful. So another look that I did that I loved, and I did a similar look like this actually a couple of times, where I had, I think it was Bonfire and Toasty in the crease. This was on the inner half of the lid, and then this red was on the outer half of the lid. That one is called Puppy Love, and I loved this look, and I'm pretty sure I did do this look multiple times. So again, I still did combine this one with other palettes, but the looks that I got mostly using this one, I absolutely loved. I did reach for the mattes in this palette actually quite a few times when using other palettes because I had other palettes that I was working on that had a lot of shimmers. So this really came in handy, but these metallics, they're amazing. This color, fantastic. The only one I didn't use this purple. So I would like to use that at some point, but I loved using this palette. Next up is the Colourpop So Jaded. And if you were watching my videos in the last month, I wore this in a lot of videos that I had up in May. I think almost half the videos I was wearing this palette. I'm not even showing pictures of all the looks that I did because yeah, I wore this in a lot of videos. So the only one that I still have a photo of is the look that I was wearing in my Deck of Panning Project Pan update, where I had ametrine in the crease, jasper in the outer corner, and then smoky quartz all over the lid. I loved this palette. Oh my gosh, I could not stop using it. I kind of had to force myself to use other palettes this last month because I loved it so much. This one, I did also reach into some of the more basic shades, particularly my Precious as a brow bone highlight. I didn't really have a very good brow bone highlight in my other palettes. This one is really nice. I'm actually wearing this today as a brow bone highlight. So I probably use this palette more than 10 times because I really needed this. I don't know, there's just something, I know a brow bone highlight is so boring, but I love just like a matte cream shade for that. I don't want it to be too white and I don't want it to be shimmery. Random, I know, but I really actually enjoyed that even though that's so basic. But I also did wear a green look with these in a couple of videos. A lot of you guys commented on that look. I did also add one of the sparkly shades from the Urban Decay Stoned Vibes palette on top. I really loved that look. Oh yeah, another video. Oh, I can't remember which video, but I used Tiger's Eye all over the lid, and that was a beautiful look also. Yeah, I loved every second of using this palette. The only shades I didn't get to use that I really want to, I don't think I used Ruby at all, and I don't think I used Amethyst, and they are two of my favorite shades in this palette, so I do need to use those at some point. Yeah, also this palette, I absolutely loved it. This is a really, really good palette. And I kind of forgot about it because I used it a lot last year, but then I don't think I had hardly used it at all this year until putting it in this project, which is why I'm doing this project, to rotate through my palettes. And this is a good one. It is one of my favorites. And the last one is this magnetic palette. Now, if you did see the last update, this was in a different palette, and I actually rearranged my singles after filming that video because this wasn't a Colourpop magnetic palette and it was just really falling apart. And I kind of opened up all my magnetic palettes and I realized that I had enough room to just get rid of that one and kind of consolidate everything into my other magnetic palettes. This one is from the Shop Miss A website. I've had this for a long time. These are really good quality. These are the only magnetic palettes that I buy now. I did do a recent video, Best and Worst of Shop Miss A. So if you do want to see that, I will link it. But this is a palette I've had for a long time. And I kind of rearranged the colors too. These are not the exact colors that were in that other palette, but it's mostly Colourpop shadows. So actually, yeah, everything in here is a Colourpop shadow. I love this arrangement. These colors are so beautiful. I mean, I could just probably have just this and I feel like I have enough neutrals and enough colorful shades. This is a really beautiful palette. So I have two pictures with looks from this palette. So I have one where I used these golds and then some of the matte browns in the crease. I don't really remember which ones actually, but it was just the browns. And then a look that I loved. So this color is Soft Core. I had that all over the crease. And then I had this beautiful shade. Let me see what this is called. Heavy Glam, all over the lid. Now, in the photo, you will see that this is actually a duochrome. In the pan, it just looks like a peach shade, but it has a pink shift on the eyes. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous color. I forgot how much I loved this. I had not used this single eyeshadow in a very long time. I'm actually pretty bad about using my single eyeshadows, which is why I was very excited that I had this palette in this rotation. Actually, funny enough, so the last update for this project, I had my dog pick my palettes, so if you saw that, he actually picked these out for me, so he did a really good job. If you saw that video, these palettes were all amazing. And yeah, I am just not that great at rotating through my single eyeshadows. I tend to reach for pre-made palettes, but I have so many good single eyeshadows. It's really sad. But yeah, Heavy Glam, absolutely beautiful. Alrighty, so I thought this was a fun change to have looks to share with you guys. And also, I think 10 times will make it easier for me to rotate through my palette collection. Now, I picked 4 new palettes, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to pick. I did a video a couple weeks ago talking about palettes I had not used at all this year. So I did pick 2 palettes from that video because I haven't used those palettes in well over 6 months, maybe more. And then I did also pick my 2 new palettes. I did buy 2 palettes in May. I will be doing a low buy update video. I don't think it's not up yet, but I do plan on doing that. But I'll go ahead and show you the 2 palettes that I bought because I have mentioned them in other videos. But the older palettes that I picked are the Anastasia Norvina palette. I can't even remember the last time I used this. This is one I have obviously used a lot because it's one of my few palettes that has a pan in it. This was in my Project 100 uses also. So I've used this one a lot, and I've noticed sometimes when I used a palette a lot, I kind of then forget about it and want to move on to other things. So I'm pretty excited about that one. I do love that color story. And then the Sultry palette is the other one. Again, I cannot remember when I last used this. Also, I have hit pan on this, and I did talk about in that video that when I purchased the Natasha Denona Glam palette, I think I got it in December last year, I thought that I would want to declutter this palette because there are so many similar shades, and I like the Natasha Denona formula way better than I like the Anastasia formula. I still like this palette, but I just prefer the Natasha formula. However, they're not as similar as I thought. There definitely are similarities, but it's definitely not like a shade by shade dupe situation. So yeah, but I want to use it and kind of see how I feel about it because since I purchased the Natasha Denona one, I have not reached for this one time. Alrighty, and the 2 new palettes that I purchased this month, the Sigma Warm Neutrals. If you saw my palette wishlist video I did a couple months ago, I did talk about this one in that video, that I've been wanting this since it came out, and Sigma had a 40% off sale. As I mentioned, I prefer to buy Sigma on sale because I think their palettes are a little too expensive, $49, but 40% off. I thought, all right, it's been on my wish list. I want to get it. And I've only used this once since I bought it, which is really sad. But I mean, this is what happens when I have a lot of palettes. So beautiful though, burgundy colors, browns. So it is a lot of warm shades. This is more interesting than I initially thought that it would be because there are some more pinky type colors. There's this really interesting green shade here that I have not used that I do want to use. I think this is a nice combination of a variety of just, it's not just warm browns. So I thought this was actually a pretty interesting color story. I really do like this Sigma formula. So I am excited about this palette. Only complaint, very minor, I will say, I do have 2 other Sigma palettes, the Untamed and the Enchanted, and the design on those palettes are just, they're really beautiful, and I feel like this looks a bit blah. I don't know. I think they could have done something more interesting. Like the Untamed palette has a bit of like that fuzziness, kind of like the Anastasia palettes. I don't know. I guess I just think this design looks a bit cheaper than the other 2 palettes I have from them, but it's really not that big of a deal. But I am really, really excited to use this. And then the other one. Okay, so in that palette wishlist video, I feel really ridiculous that I forgot to include this palette because it has been on my wish list for multiple years. And I finally got the Pat McGrath Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction. I've only used it twice, but oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. This is only my 2nd large Mothership palette. I do have one of the 6 pans. I love it so much. Love the Pat McGrath formula. I mean, Natasha Denona is probably my favorite formula overall. Pat McGrath is like a close number 2 though, honestly. I do think that her formula is more unique and more interesting, but sometimes these shades are a little harder to work with. However, I did do a look with this red and it was just as amazing as I hoped it would be. So even though I've only used this twice, I do really love it. And I mentioned this in another video in my Project Use It Up update. I got such an amazing deal. She had, I think it was 30% off. and there was a free gloss with a purchase. So I spent $85 for this palette and a gloss, which is a 45% discount. Kind of crazy. And I really had missed the pat glosses because I used all of mine up. So anyway, random, but it was the perfect opportunity. I'm very excited to have another one of these in my collection, but now it just makes me want to buy more of them. I would love to have the Divine Rose 2 and the Mothership 3. Those are the other two that I really, really love, but this is the one that I've wanted for a very long time, and I talked myself out of it a million times, but then I kept thinking about it, so very excited to do some looks with this. Alrighty, that is it for this update. I thought this would be a really fun change. So this way I can use my palettes more, rotate, but I thought it would be fun to share looks with each palette. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know how you guys rotate through your eyeshadow palette collections, or if you are more focused on panning eyeshadows, like pan that palette. And I know that a lot of people are doing pan those eyeshadows, which I do love watching those updates. If you want to see my other project pans, check out my project pan playlist. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.